Hello everybody, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be looking at my October 2019 forecast. This includes my temperature forecast and then my precipitation forecast and finally my overall forecast. So stay tuned to the very end. We'll start off with my temperature forecast. Here we'll start from west to east. In the northwest, we have these below average temperatures. That's because of a deep low pressure that's building and is going to produce above 30 inches of snowfall in some areas over Montana over the next couple of days. We're going to be seeing that low pressure kind of bring in some of that cold air from Canada, and it's going to lead to those moderately below average temperatures. We also have another area of moderately below average for parts of the northern half of Maine, the tiniest part of New Hampshire, Vermont, and then extreme northern upstate New York. You could all be seeing moderately below average, mainly because we're going to be seeing some dips in the jet stream, and you'll usually be well north of that, so that's why you'll be seeing those cooler temperatures compared to normal. Now, in that light blue, you'll be seeing slightly below average temperatures, and that's just going to be due to how the jet stream pattern sets up and where those low pressures track. They look to track kind of along that boundary between above average and below average, and for most of the month you'll be slightly below average for about half the month. You'll be moderately below average for about half the month, and then you'll be slightly above average for the other half of the month, especially for the eastern half of that region, and that's mainly gonna average out to slightly below average. So you'll kind of have some above average and below average in the month of October. That now, as we go into our slightly above average area, which is from all the way from the Four Corners down into the Mid-Atlantic, you're going to be seeing just slightly above average temperatures. Nothing really too notable as far as temperatures go. Moderately above average in those oranges, and then well above average in those reds. That includes the panhandle of Florida, parts of eastern Louisiana and Mississippi, almost all of Alabama, parts of Georgia, which includes some of Atlanta there, and then into Tennessee, parts of North Carolina, and then into Kentucky. You guys will all be seeing well above average. You really don't get out of that above average this entire month. A couple of days will be below average especially for parts of Tennessee and Kentucky, and then into parts of northern Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. But closer to the Gulf of Mexico, you're not going to be really seeing any relief in sight. So it'll just be well above average almost every day, being at least 5 to 10 degrees above average. So just crazy. It's just been so hot down in the southeast over about 2 months now. We haven't been getting a break at all. Now here's your precipitation forecast, and we'll start from west to east again. In the northwest, you're gonna be seeing below average, and that's for the coastal northwest. That's mainly due to most of your low pressures kind of going in through British Columbia and then kind of not even touching parts of Washington State or Oregon, and then it'll kind of dip down again. So you're gonna kind of get avoided by all that precipitation. Well, we have slightly above average for Idaho, Montana, parts of Washington State, and then the parts of North Dakota. That's going to be due to that major winter storm that'll lead, once the snow melts, to maybe even some flooding, because you'll have 30 inches of wet snowfall and then it'll melt and could lead to several inches of water on the ground. So you'll be slightly above average. You could actually dip into below average for a couple of weeks, but just because you're seeing so much moisture from that one system, that's going to put you slightly above average for the entire month. Anywhere that's not shaded in a color, that's average conditions. So you'll be sometimes below average, sometimes above average, but it'll ultimately even out to be just average. Now, in the parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and then parts of western Texas, you'll be seeing slightly above average, as we do actually have a hurricane that was moving through parts of Baja California and leading to some thunderstorm activity that's impacting parts of Arizona and New Mexico and Texas, and then also some severe weather has been sprouting up through parts of Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, which you only need a little bit of rainfall to put these areas above average, and so these areas are well above average currently. So it'll kind of last to the entire month. Now, slightly above average for parts of Michigan, the UP of Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, parts of Indiana, into Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, and then South Dakota. That's where you could see multiple severe weather events over this month. Now, as we get into into that brown, that's your below average. So over parts of the eastern United States, you'll be seeing slightly below average in that first shade of brown. Then for parts of really from New York all the way into coastal Maine, you'll be seeing moderately below average conditions, and that's gonna just be due to us not seeing as much rainfall as we would normally have this time of year. It's not that you're not gonna be seeing precipitation; it's that you average more precipitation than you're gonna get this entire month. This definitely could change. My most uncertain area is actually the Northeast because we don't know really if we're gonna tap into some of that severe weather, like if some severe weather bands are gonna come in from Illinois as they usually do, kind of move through Pennsylvania and upstate New York and then into Boston and then into New York and DC. We really don't know how much of that severe weather is gonna go there. So that's my uncertain area. Then also for Louisiana, some of the Panhandle, Florida, Mississippi, and Alabama, and then also for parts of Texas, including Houston, you could be seeing moderately below average temperatures for this month. Now, we have slightly above average for parts of the coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, parts of, coastal Georgia, parts of Florida could also be seeing slightly above average conditions for precipitation. And then also for the southern half of Florida, you could be seeing moderately above average, as you might be hit by a couple of weaker hurricanes, and then also you'll just be seeing some showers pretty much every day over that area. Now here's my overall forecast, and I'll move my pen out of the way. Yeah, so we have our overall forecast. We'll start from west to east again. We have a chilly start over most of the western third of the United States. That's where you could be seeing temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below average, and then kind of tapering off 10 to 20 degrees below average, and that's going to last about 10 to 15 days. So that's why it's going to be almost half of the month that you're going to be below average. So really going to play into your temperature anomalies. Then in that lighter blue, up near Montana, Wyoming, even parts of North Dakota, Idaho, and then parts of Washington State, mainly in the mountains, you'll be seeing your first snowfall of the year for most areas, and that's very early, and especially the magnitude of this. If it was just a couple of flurries, I wouldn't even have noted it on this map, but we're seeing up to 50 inches on some mountaintops. That is the strongest system that's ever been, I think, since 1984 to this early on in the season for these areas. So definitely something unprecedented that's happening over the Northwest currently. We have average conditions over anywhere that's not shaded. That's pretty much from parts of the Four Corners all the way up through the upper Midwest. Then the heart of severe weather in that red, you'll be seeing severe weather anywhere from Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and then all the way, especially in through Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and even into Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. You'll be seeing some definitely some severe weather this month. Now, a dry start to the month for parts of the Northeast, actually most of the Northeast, and you're just gonna be so dry the first couple of days and the first week or so that it's gonna kind of average out to be a pretty dry October, even though you could tap into some of that moisture later on in the month. And then very warm down for the southeast, where you could be seeing, well, we're still seeing temperatures, if you live down in the southeast, you're still seeing temperatures in the 90s, and your average is usually around the 80s, the low 80s, and mid 80s. So when you're seeing 95 degrees in the start of October, it's really well above average for these areas. If you did enjoy that video, guys, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I post about 3 to 5 videos a week, and I like to keep you guys as informed as possible onto what's happening currently related to weather. So yeah, that was Eli the Weather Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.